Hey Falcon fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into the channel. We're going to go ahead and break down every single Falcons pick, all 7 rounds on today's video, and give you my grades from each and every pick. I think the Falcons had a very interesting draft. Let's just say that. Started with Kyle Pitts and went all the way down to Frank Darby, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. I like the draft, and we'll give you my overall grade in a second. But first, let's go ahead and just go through all of the picks to give a full recap that way you guys, remember, because there was a lot of draft picks for the Atlanta Falcons this year. Obviously, Kyle Pitts, star tight end. We'll talk about him first here in just a couple of minutes. The Richie Grant pick. I mean, this was great. Trading up with Denver and taking the safety out of UCF. Big fan of this draft pick. We'll talk about him in just a couple of minutes. Jalen Mayfield, the offensive tackle, who's going to be competing with Caleb McGarry on the right side, might move into guard. That's an interesting training camp matchup to go ahead and keep an eye on. DARREN Hall, a little late for a cornerback. I think they should have gotten one a little bit earlier on, but still, Richie Grant, so I understand why they were doing that. Drew Dalman, who's going to compete with Matt Hennessey for the center position. You can see a lot of competitions brewing right now in Falcons training camp. Taquan Graham, the defensive tackle out of Texas, more of a defensive end. They said pass rusher on the stage, and they talked about pass rusher, but he's listed as a defensive tackle. He played both positions while he was at Texas. Then you have the hard name to say, and every single draft team has a name that takes, you got to really study up and make sure you know how to say it. And this is I'm going to try it here. Adetukumbo. And then it's a Gund DJ, the defensive end out of Notre Dame. I'm sorry if I butchered it. I've been practicing in the mirror all day long. Very hard to say, but he was a pass rusher, obviously out of Notre Dame. Avery Williams, the cornerback out of Boise, and then Frank Darby, the wide receiver in the 6th round, pick 187 out of Arizona State to round out the first draft for Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. And honestly, I like it. I mean, I'm going to give this a B-. I think they did a really good job about getting positions of need. I would have liked to trade back with the Kyle Pitts pick and take one of the cornerbacks like Patrick Surtain, but it sounded like Denver really wouldn't offer a good trade to move up, and they didn't take a quarterback anyway, so it's clear they didn't want to go ahead and move up. But overall, this to me was a very solid draft for the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm pretty pumped about the idea of them getting real starters. And listen, Fontenot and Arthur Smith have a good draft from the start. Things are going to be good for the Falcons going forward. So I say B-. What say you? Grade the draft class A, B, C, D, or F down below right now in the comments section. I don't know how you go below a B-. I feel really good about this draft, but let me know what you guys think down below. All right, we'll start with Kyle Pitts, and this is the draft grade that everyone wants to look for. For me, it's a B-. Okay, I like Kyle Pitts. I think he's a great player. I'm not sure he's a need for the Atlanta Falcons. I think it shows that they're investing in Matt Ryan. I didn't want a quarterback at 4. I wanted the Falcons to trade out of 4 and actually get a corner and then additional draft picks in the future. But when no one offered a good enough package, then it makes sense that the Falcons had to go ahead and take Pitts. And honestly, again, fine with it. I would have liked to go back, but I am intrigued by how much they're going to be able to get him the football in an offense with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and, of course, all the other weapons that they have from an offensive perspective. Hayden Hurst, another tight end. Are they going to go with more 2 tight end looks? Are they going to use him more as a wide receiver in the slot? No one really knows what they're going to do. But I will say this, he's a luxury player, he's a big-time star, and I really hope that he turns out to be one of the best tight ends in NFL history, as everyone kept telling us going into the NFL draft. And so, again, I say B- for my draft grade on Kyle Pitts. Okay, before we go and keep going, the Kyle Pitts jersey is official. Single digit, looks really great. You can pick one up right now with our friends at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Pitts is the place to go. Men's, women's, all the different sizes. Link will be down below right now in the description box. Go ahead and check out the Kyle Pitts jersey. These are already selling like crazy. You got to pick one up quickly. As I'm seeing a lot of people in Atlanta already getting their orders in, following people on Twitter, of course, being in Atlanta. And so the Kyle Pitts jerseys look great. Wearing the hot number 8, the black jerseys to me are fantastic. Again, chatsports.com/Pitts. Go ahead and pick one up today. Let's jump into some more Falcon grades here. The Richie Grant is just fantastic. This was a pick that a lot of Falcon fans, I don't think, were looking towards. We were thinking pass rusher. We were thinking defensive, maybe defensive back from a cornerback standpoint. But one of the most least talked about needs for the Atlanta Falcons was safety going into this draft. And they might have gotten the best one. I mean, this is arguably they got the best one. This is my highest grade of the entire draft. A- overall for Richie Grant. He can play in the box. He can cover. He can do a great job intercepting the football. This is a need the Atlanta Falcon fans who, it's not the sexiest pick ever, but it's a pick that is going to be, to me, hopefully a 5 to 6 to 7 year starter. And so Richie Grant coming in here in the 2nd round was an absolutely fantastic pick and was my favorite pick of the entire draft for the Atlanta Falcons. And speaking of which, what was your favorite pick for the Atlanta Falcons out of all of them? Maybe it's Kyle Pitts, maybe it's someone else. Let me know who that was down below right now in the comments section. For me, very simple. It was definitely Richie Grant. All right, let me move into some offensive line battles here. And they went Jalen Mayfield, who comes from Michigan. He technically is a right tackle, but he can play inside. It might be moved to left guard, depending on the needs of the Atlanta Falcons offensive line. This is a very clear, straight up, let's compete against Caleb McGarry. And I guess they aren't sold on Caleb McGarry. They trade up in the 1st round to get him a couple of drafts ago. And so You hope that McGarry's the guy, but competition is going to be really fun to watch from an offensive line perspective. It was very clear Arthur Smith wants to make sure Matt Ryan is not one of the most hit quarterbacks in the National Football League, and so I like the Jalen Mayfield addition. I will go ahead and give that one a B+. Okay, DARREN Hall out of San Diego State, the cornerback. I like the size. I like the ball skills. I think corner should have been a little bit more of a focus for the Atlanta Falcons. Even though Terrell was great last year, I would have liked someone opposite of A.J. Terrell, and maybe it will go ahead and be DARREN Hall, but I think it was a little bit later to start thinking about it. But again, the Grant, you had to take him there, and then I really like the idea of getting Jalen Mayfield, and so I guess corner in the 4th round was the earliest they could go ahead and get it. I'll give this one a B- because, again, they needed a cornerback. They got a cornerback. I would have liked to get one a little bit earlier, but this is one who is one of those boomer bust corners who could be a starter for the next 10 years or, flash out of the National Football League in just a couple of years. All right, we move over here to Drew Dalman, the center out of Stanford. And again, competition on the offensive line, right? They're going to go ahead and pit him against Matt Hennessey and try and see who's the better center. And Hennessey got some snaps last year with Alex Mack's concussion injury, and Alex Mack, of course, is now a 49er. And so open competition. They can make him a swing tackle. He can play guard as well. But center is where he's going to go ahead and thrive. And if he beats out Hennessey, then good for the Falcons. It shows that obviously Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, again, are putting the emphasis on having a good young offensive line to hopefully help out Matt Ryan and any other quarterback of the future. And so, big fan of this one. I will go ahead and give it an A- for Drew Dalman, as I really like the past couple of picks just going offensive line and making sure that hopefully Matt Ryan's not on his backside for the next 2 or 3 years as long as he's left in Atlanta. All right, move on to some more picks here before we get to some more picks, make sure you guys are subscribed to our Atlanta Falcons specific chat sports channel here. Go down below. More subscribers that subscribe here, the more videos we can go ahead and put out covering Atlanta, not just post-draft, but leading into training camp, into the offseason. The schedule's going to come out in a couple of weeks. We'll cover it all here on Atlanta Falcons Today, so make sure you guys are subscribed down below with the big red subscribe button. All right, moving on here. A couple more picks. They went with Taquan Graham, the defensive tackle out of Texas, who we said earlier, he's more of a pass rusher. And so I like the idea of getting a pass rusher, but again, would like one a little bit earlier because pass rusher was a big need. But this is a massive human being who can really, dominate really poor and right tackles. He did it a lot out of Texas against a lot of the other Big 12 offensive lines. Project, he's going to have to work. He's going to be a rotational guy early, but the hope is that the new defense in Atlanta can find a diamond in the rough pass rusher, and I like the idea of Taquan Graham, who's one of those kind of hybrid D-tackle defensive ends who can play on the outside. I like this pick again as well. I give it an A- as my overall grade for that one. Now it's for the next pick as we get later on. Another pass rusher out of Notre Dame who the film is great. You put on this guy's film and it's fantastic. The worst part about him is trying to pronounce his name. And it's just hard to do, right? From a broadcasting perspective, how do we say his name? Well, I think it's Adetokunbo Kumbo is how you say his first name. His last name is Agundije. And that's the defensive end of Notre Dame. Now, I might have butchered it. I'm sorry. We're going to work on it. But every year, the Falcons, every year, they're going to draft somebody that's going to be hard to pronounce. We got to kind of work on the pronunciations. But he's a guy who comes in here and can really become, hopefully, a rotational pass rusher, much like we just talked about with Taquan Graham. They went back-to-back in the later rounds here, and I think that the idea is that if Fowler struggles, and maybe he does from a starting defensive end perspective, you can get a couple of bodies that can rotate in there and be fresh. I'm a little bit lower on this one with a B- grade, but I'll try and say his name one more time the way we get it. It's Adetokunbo Agundije. I think that's how you say his name. So tough to say, but still a rotational pass rusher for the Atlanta Falcons. You guys have a least favorite draft pick this year? Honestly, I don't know if I have a least favorite draft pick. Maybe Avery Williams, who's coming up in just a second, but give me your least favorite draft pick for the Falcons this year. Let me know who that is down below right now in the comments section. Again, Avery Williams out of Boise State, the cornerback. Later on draft pick, it's a special teamer. He's not really a starting caliber cornerback who can compete for starting time. He can play a little bit of nickel, but more of a special teamer. So I would like someone more higher upside, I should say, in the later rounds of the NFL draft. But they needed DBs, and they added 2 of them. And so hopefully, maybe Williams turns out to be the diamond in the rough, right? You get these later draft picks, you don't know a lot about them. You just throw the film on and try and figure it out. I give this one a B- overall because I guess you need some gunners on the special teams, and that's where he's going to start off trying to make the team going into training camp. Final one, kind of a surprise to see a wide receiver off the board here. Very late in this draft, Frank Darby, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, great deep ball guy. I guess the idea here is that the number 3 wide receiver spot behind Ridley and Julio Jones is not official. I mean, we don't know who he's going to go ahead and be, and so they went ahead and added somebody who signed on for the next 4 years and maybe can make the football team and be one of those diamonds in the rough, right? You get Ridley in front of you, you get Julio Jones, you can obviously learn a lot from them, and so the hope here with Frank Darby is that he turns out to be the number 3 wide receiver, and if he does, then this is a B-plus grade. I mean, this is a B-plus prospect that they got later on in the draft. Thought he'd be in the 6th round, was there in the later rounds, and so I'm excited to see if he can compete in training camp, much like the other later round draft picks the Falcons have here. Overall, again, I like the draft. I like what they did early on, the 2nd and 3rd round. They got a lot of good prospects that I think can go ahead and get some starting time early on, address the offensive line, and again, we'll see what Kyle Pitts can do. So I'm a fan. You guys like the Falcons draft? Let me know if you do. Type Y down below for yes. If you do not, I'll be surprised, but I want to know why. Type N down below for no. Ultimately, for today here at Atlanta Falcons Today, I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.